Hey, on this episode of Rogue Creators, we're talking with Miruna from Planable about
awesome tools to be able to plan your content and keep the momentum up with your brand.
Absolutely. And she has a special code for you guys to try out Planable, so make sure you go to the show notes for that. But let's jump into the episode right now.
3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome back to Rogue Creators, presented by Go RogueX. My name is Brian Fitton.
And I'm Lauren Lewis.
And this is the podcast dedicated to marketers and creators who are wanting to serve first and stand out from the crowd. Make sure that you subscribe every single week, YouTube, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, to get all of the tools and resources you need to be the go-to name in your industry. Let's go. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Rogue Creators. And I'm so excited to be back in the studio with Lauren Lewis, my co-host.
Hey,
I introduced you that time.
I know. I'm so proud of you.
Yes. We are on today with Miruna from Planable. Hi, Miruna. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. We are obviously in the social media and digital content creation space. And so you are with Planable, which is a phenomenal software that helps companies plan out, obviously, content and social media calendars and stuff like that. And so we are excited to have you on because obviously our audience can benefit from what you guys are doing. And you guys have done really some new things for 2020 and what you're looking at basically in the digital world, like how jobs are being created and how a need for content creators as well as social media managers has kind of come about because of the pandemic. And so we are really excited to jump into all of that with you. But before we do, we like to start off with something just a little fun. So Miruna, we're going to jump into this, but what is that, Lauren? What is our fun thing?
Each week we like to start off our podcast with what are you obsessed with this week? So starting with you, Miruna, what are you obsessed with this week?
So I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to steal one of yours, Brian, from a few episodes ago.
Okay.
And that is Clubhouse.
Yes.
And not because it's so... I've been on Clubhouse for, I don't know, a month or so. But I'm still kind of trying to figure where it would fit my routine of content consumption.
Yeah.
And it's proving out to be quite difficult because I'm pretty young. My routine shouldn't be this set in stone, but I feel like it's very complicated for me. Feels like morning should be the best time to go on Clubhouse, but the content is not that good at that time of day, so
yeah.
I'm still kind of trying to figure out the best time to be on Clubhouse and getting into the best rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting to me. I've found that Saturdays are the best time that I've been able to actually enjoy content. Like there's some good rooms that are available, and I don't know if it's just everybody who's working throughout the week, and then all of a sudden Saturday is kind of when we're like cleaning the garage or doing the dishes or something like that. That's when I found it, but it really is difficult to like kind of squeeze it in because it's not recorded. You can't just go back and replay it. Like you have to be in the moment, which there's an appeal to that. But I understand. I definitely understand that.
Yeah, and I have some weird moments too in which I'm still kind of scared that I might be that I'm missing something and maybe they can hear me too, and I still have these panic moments in which I'm going with my phone around the house. I don't know, whatever I'm doing. I'm like, oh, oops. Oh, okay, that's okay. I think it's okay. Can anyone hear me? No. Okay, I'm good.
I've done that before where they'll send a notification like, do you want to welcome this person in? And you're like, sure. And then you click it. And then all of a sudden they're like, you're like in a room with them and your microphone is on. I was like, oh no, I don't know you that well enough to jump into a room with you. But yeah, there's some hiccups there. I think they're probably working through, but I'm so happy that your obsession is also my obsession. It has been for a while. See, Lauren, you need to get in Clubhouse.
I am.
Me and Miruna, we're in the cool club. You need to join us.
I am in Clubhouse.
Oh.
I haven't. It's a strange platform. It's a totally different world, and so trying to figure out, finding your people and then finding, the time as well, just because it's all live. So I am so interested to see how this platform will be truly utilized because there's so many people that are jumping on it right now because it's the cool thing to do. But I'm like, how many people will stay?
Yeah,
And what will be
yeah.
the main audience that actually utilizes it is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What are you obsessed with, Lauren?
Mine's super boring. So I just moved into a new house, and I am obsessed with trying to figure out and utilize well our Nest thermometer or thermostat, I should say. So I'm really enjoying a lot of working with like automation. Like we have some like smart plugs and like trying to like actually automate our house and everything, which sounds super weird to say. But I am really interested in getting working with that and getting all the rhythms in our house to make it super efficient, kind of green, and I think it's cool.
Congratulations, by the way, on the
Thank
new
you.
house.
But it's really boring thing to be obsessed with at the moment. But
It kind of rules your life, though. in
yeah,
your
when you
house.
move, it's kind of like, well, all right.
Oh, that's awesome. It's fun, especially the technology side. I can definitely get into that.
Being able to control everything from your phone and, or talk to Alexa about it. So
Yeah. Just talk to Alexa about it. She's a great therapist. All right. So for me this week, I'm going to recommend a book.
what?
I know. Miruna, this is the first time you're a part of the first experience of me recommending a book, I think, ever. But I have been I've been diving into Rocket Fuel
Nice.
by Gino something. I feel
Oh.
really bad that I had his. We will put it in the show notes. We'll make sure. But it's basically about structuring your company, and it's just phenomenal stuff, especially as a startup. We're a young startup, and so really being able to bring my corporate knowledge, like 14 years of corporate knowledge, and be able to put it into the startup and what that looks like for structure. And so, I've been nerding out over this. It's been
I'm
very
excited.
exciting. So, it's good stuff. Again, I've like demolished that book in like a week. So, which is crazy because I don't read a whole lot, and I've already taken out 2 books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a great book as well. And so,
was it?
Rich Dad, Poor
I've heard
Dad.
so many different. I
Yeah.
know it. I've heard so many different opinions about it.
It's definitely, I'm still kind of gathering my thoughts around it, but it definitely changes your mindset. It's very capitalistic, which is totally fine in that space to be able to say, hey, how can my money work for me? And it's definitely heavy real estate focus, which I think that bubble, back when it was written was really big, but now not so much. But it's a great mind shift switch for thinking about money wise. So
There you go.
yeah. Anyway.
Well, cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, let's jump in
Yeah.
with Miruna. I'm so excited to chat with you. So, hey, give us just a little bit of backstory about you and then also Planable.
Yeah, so me, Miruna, I am currently the head of marketing at Planable and joined Planable really early in its journey as well. I think I was the second employee or so. And it's been a really thrilling and exciting ride. Planable is a social media collaboration platform, meaning that it kind of handles everything before and the actual publishing of posts. And the easiest way to explain Planable for anyone that has interacted with social media is that, it replaces the spreadsheets in which people usually plan their content, the emails in which people usually send that content back and forth until we all want to quit emails. And, the phone calls and every other means of communication and the panic of publishing something without knowing if it's approved or not. So it kind of gives you this one place to collaborate on everything and to visualize everything, and then to have the peace of mind that once you've gotten the approval and the green light, it's actually good to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then coming back to my background, currently at Planable for the past 3 years. And before Planable, I was part of the Uber marketing team. And before that, the way I started my career was at Oracle as part of the social media team. So that's kind of my path so far.
Nice. Well, obviously, Uber, everybody's very familiar with that, and even Oracle in that space. I have to admit, I don't know that I've seen any social media from Oracle. Now I need to go digging for Oracle social media. I was like, that's interesting to me. That's interesting.
We worked.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's I will say, so my first introduction to Planable was actually one of my mentors. We were talking about just different systems and stuff, and obviously we schedule out social media content for our clients and walking through that approval process. And he was like, "Man, Planable has a great approval system set up." And so it was one of those that was like first introduction. I was like, "Oh, this is a really neat tool." And so love what you guys are doing there.
That's so cool. Thanks for that story. I'm going to go and back in the office and tell everyone after the podcast is done, of course.
There you go.
So I think one of the things, especially like on our end, but even on just like a singular, like we manage, close to, I think right now, 50 accounts. So, we have a lot of content flying around. But one of the things that I think a lot of our clients get a lot of content and they just get overwhelmed by it. And so it doesn't even go out. And so how can Planable really help businesses kind of focus in on being able to utilize making content, but then also making sure it actually gets out?
So I think one of the reasons usually a lot of content gets lost is because, as you said, there's so much of it and it's so complicated to keep it in one place. And I remember back when I was working at Oracle, the content curation was kind of the hardest part of the job, to kind of understand what the whole company is talking about and how to get all those links in one place and how to understand if they're good to go and when and so on and so forth. So I think kind of what makes it really, really hard is the multitude of environments in which we keep everything. And the way Planable can work is that you can pour everything in there, from ideas to actual final posts. So even if you have, for example, I don't know, you find links or content that you're not sure yet and you just want to have it in there just so you don't forget about it, you can do so and you can have it. In Planable, we have this feature in which you can keep posts as drafts only visible to the internal team. So that could be like, if you're an agency, it could be only the agency and the core team. So the client cannot see those drafts of yours, so they don't get overwhelmed with the same amount of stuff that you put in there. So that's one thing. And you can have those posts as drafts. And another way to make sure that you keep them, you keep the clarity in Planable, is that we have these labels that you can apply either according to stages of your content, again, as ideas or just content dump. You can name it whatever you want. Or you can use those labels as content pillars. For example, usually any brand kind of talking on social, you have these topics that you always revolve around. And these labels are also, color coded. So they're very nice for organizational nerds, to say so. And you can see them, and you have a calendar view, so you can see them kind of at a glance how you're doing with your balance and with your stages and everything. And obviously you have the filters and the sorting. So it gives you this wide variety of features that you can use to really keep everything organized. And there's always kind of one way to manage your content in a simple manner.
So actually, here's the deal. I'm not a color coding type of guy. Now Lauren, on the other hand,
yeah,
we are color coded to the max. We've had this issue like with Google Drive, which I think is hilarious.
Yes.
That Lauren was like, "Why can't you? She assumed that everybody's stuff was as organized as hers, and mine is all over the place." And so it sounds like this is a dream for you to be able to color coordinate.
Right. Well, I love the feature that we talk about 4 pillars all the time with all of our clients. Like, hey, develop pillars for your company on different topics you want to rotate on and talk about, so that you always kind of stay focused on your brand. And that can be kind of tricky when you get a lot of ideas. And so I love that there's a feature that you could color code that, so you could kind of see like, whoa, we went really heavy on one topic and we didn't talk about anything in this one category. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times there's aspects of your company maybe you're not as passionate about as some other people, but I mean that's a really cool system. Yeah, I do have some systems that are color coded, but I just didn't realize my other team could not see all of them.
You realize how disorganized we all were. But no, that's I completely agree, and especially in the podcasting world, we service a lot of podcast clients, and so setting up those pillars is very important when you're talking about. I mean, one of ours is social media content, and so that's why you're on today. You're part of that pillar, and it's one of those things of keeping it organized to make sure your content is fresh, to make sure that your audience is engaging with that you're offering value in multiple areas. Even though we kind of we're in that digital space, that's such a broad topic, and making sure that you have those pillars set up, I think, is ideal. And obviously, being able to organize that on the back end is even more important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, these content pillars they usually feel like they're part of the initial strategy, but then so many brands end up ignoring them altogether. Everyone's really excited. Okay, we're going to talk about sustainability. It's going to be one of our content pillars because we do, clothes in a sustainable manner. And then you find all the relevant topics, and you find the ones that are also kind of relevant to your audience, not just to you. And then you start building content and you forget all about them because, again, it's complicated to have this kind of overview of what you're talking about. And it's always go, 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 and not so much time to look at the process and, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's especially in the podcast where we're like, can you talk about this topic for 52 episodes? Like, that's in the week or the year, right? We plan out the entire year because people get excited about, 10 episodes or so. Like, yeah. And I'm like, make sure you can do this for 52 times. Like, that's exactly with social media content. You need to make sure that you're mixing it up, that you have different varieties, and you'll burn out if you don't have those pillars set up. So.
Oh, definitely. So looking over, being able to use such a powerhouse tool like Planable, when you're seeing people utilize this tool, what would you advise when they think about planning out their content? We get these questions a lot, especially people who are very much worried about their grid on Instagram, of having a really streamlined, scheduled, this is exactly what we do a Monday post, we do a Tuesday post, just like this all the time. Or would you say it's better to mix it up and have a lot of different styles and just be original with it, or have this beautiful grid?
I think personally, I would go for a combination of both. I do think it depends on the brand, and that's a very, very predictable answer, but it's true. If you have a brand that goes for the beautiful food, or you have, for example, a restaurant that is very well known for how Instagrammable it is, you're probably not going to go so much for the spontaneous filming of your bartender or something, because it's going to ruin your grid and you're going to lose the thing that you're well known for. So that's why I still think that it's very, very important, especially if you're an edge case brand. But otherwise, I'd really test around with it. So I think you should have some sort of routine in your strategy. You should know what you aim for to post every week, and how often, and what you're going to talk about, just to kind of save you from that anxiety of, okay, oh my God, tomorrow I was supposed to post something. What am I going to say? But you should leave a bit of wiggle room for the crazy thoughts, for the experiments, for the questions of, could this work for us? And I think you should always kind of give those a try, unless they kind of are oblivious to your audience, or if they are, they can be interpreted as offensive, or they could break something. Unless it's one of those cases, I think you should leave that kind of flexibility to your grid or anything and play around with it, because a grid could be fixed later. So, yeah.
That is true. Grid can be fixed later, Lauren.
it can.
And it can be, and I think it's sometimes you can build a workflow that allows for both. I mean, if you, for example, think about the easiest way to keep your grid clean and beautiful without going the super mega extra mile, I don't know, I saw grids in rainbow gradients.
Ooh.
So even that, I think, I mean, if you do it in with a filter, a very advanced filter, you might even pull that off as a kind of a template that you have your photos, and any photo could be adjusted. But exactly as you said, for podcasts and for content builders, think about if you can really sustain that for long term. The same goes with the grid. Think how sustainable that is. I mean, it looks pretty for the first 3 rows, but what about the next 3 and 30 and 50?
Yeah. No, we've definitely experimented that. We had actually one client that was like, hey, run with it, whatever you guys want to do. And so we developed a grid that everything really worked well together. It flowed. It looked beautiful. And also, I think to our credit, it had standalone pieces as well that were important, so people can engage with that. It wasn't just like a partial of the photo, it wasn't just like in the corner of a photo or something like that. But it wasn't sustainable long term. It's fun to look back at that, but you got to make sure it doesn't get completely off track too much. So,
right, I think you can get a place to where you overplan to where there is. Nothing becomes original. It's just so structured, so over strategized that your content just becomes it loses that fresh feel, and it doesn't feel like you're following a person. You're following just a company.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so one of the things that we talk about a lot, like we've already touched this, but is like the sustainability aspect. So how can a company using like Planable help them gain and maintain momentum creating content?
I think a lot of the scalability aspect of content management is stopped because of this kind of attitude that we have as marketers. We kind of want to go with the flow and create. We're very, very excited about the creation part and the results part, but bores us to death to talk about the processes behind the actual content that we put out. I mean, which marketers do we all know that want to get in a room to talk about how we do things and how does one post travel from one person to another? But if you look at the numbers and at the statistics, it gets pretty obvious that it all adds up, because it feels like, okay, maybe I'm losing a bit of time with that copy pasting. Maybe Slack isn't the best way to kind of get the message across and gather feedback from 50 people. But it works for now. Okay, it works for a week, it works for 2 weeks, but you're gonna after 1 year, if you add up those minutes and halves of hours, you realize that it's a lot of wasted time. And you could have, if you're an agency, usually it means that you could have gotten new clients in that time and managed new clients. Or if you're a company, you can use that time to be more strategic, to invest more in your content, to be more creative. And so, the goal kind of aligns with the wishes of creative marketers. But yeah, I think to make it scalable, you need a proper audit of your process. I would suggest to go as far as really timing what your team does, and not for dangerous, oh my god, they want to track me, they want to look at me, but for a month. That's it. For a month, everyone kind of times what they spend, how they spend their days, and after a month, you'll have a bit more visibility of where are your biggest leaks in terms of efficiency. How much time, if you end up seeing that the copy pasting from an Excel to a spreadsheet or to a publishing tool takes 10 minutes of each person each week, then you realize that, okay, how much does a tool cost, for example, and how much time would that save me? And you actually see the ROI. So I think, yeah, the first step I would take is a proper audit of my process and my workflow.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic.
Sounds like your dream.
I know. We're connected here. We're connected. That's very efficient, which I appreciate. But yeah, no, that completely makes sense, especially if the investment into software is going to make the difference when it comes to saving time and even positions wise. I mean, we've talked about. I kind of teed it up at the beginning of the episode, but social media managers, social media and digital content in general is growing and is creating jobs, right? And so being able to take on more clients, be efficient with your time with that by using certain software can only grow your impact as well. And so, I talked about this, but tell us a little bit about the report that you guys put together basically for 2020 and really how this industry has grown.
So we launched this Social Teams 100 Top, which is it's kind of a research project that we started. We started initially kind of from an individualistic point of view. We simply wanted to know ourselves as a company how did the teams of so many brands evolve in 2020 during a full pandemic. We were curious if social media was kind of what many people, I think, would have expected if it was this kind of last department where companies will just want to cut costs and forget all about it when times get tough. And I think the most interesting thing from this research is that I'd say the answer is no, considering that so many, I mean, we found over, I think, 2,000 companies from the US that hired at least one person in social media in 2020. So I think those are big numbers that prove that social media is actually key to, especially during such a virtual world. I think social media proves to be a key factor in surviving and talking to your audience and in staying connected and real regardless of the times. So we kind of decided to celebrate these top 100 companies that hired the most people in 2020. And besides that, we found a lot of interesting stats. We found that, for example, the average seniority, meaning, how long they've been in the business so far of people hired in 2020 was 5.7 years.
Oh, wow.
Which was interesting.
Yeah.
And I think the for the people that were kind of more entry level, so interns, associates, I think the average was around 3 years, which felt a bit high for me personally.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, no. I was just commenting because that's you wouldn't. I don't think I would even expect that number either. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I would have expected something more around 1 year. Okay, 1-2 years tops. But seems like the standards are high in social media. And I think another interesting factor was that manager was a part of a lot of titles. I can't remember the exact percentage, but I think it was somewhere around 20% or something around that, which again feels like a lot. Feels like it may be an indicator that that teams are kind of feeling this need to mature and to look at more senior people to kind of align the team and or make it its own entity, not necessarily serve as a member of the general marketing team, for example. Yeah. I mean, now I'm just guessing, but it could be one of the reasons.
Yeah, no, that's well. I mean, if anything, that just shows the need for this position, and it's not just a. I think a lot of people have looked at social media of like, oh, just hire, your niece or nephew. They're young, just hire them into your company. They'll run your social media accounts. And it's a high level job that takes a lot of strategy and intentionality, especially with connecting with your audience, making sure you're bringing value, as well as teeing up, potential leads for your clients, your to get clients, as well as brand awareness campaigns. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, not just, hey, post a graphic once a week, and even with these, even Fortune 500 companies, it has gotten to be, the power of social media, the power of digital marketing, digital content has really it's risen. And I think 2020 was a year that all of a sudden people had to pay attention to it. Like, this is obviously important. This is obviously a big deal. And so we need to put some money behind that. We need to hire good talent. And it's great to see that. So thank you guys for putting that together.
Yeah, it was really interesting for us too, honestly. It was I was working on these numbers, and I was stopping every 10 minutes, and I was like, oh, huh, okay, I was not expecting that. So it gives, I think, it sheds just a bit, very, very tiny bit of light on 2020 that might have, it seems like it's the worst of the worst years in our lifetime. And it was a lot of bloom, a lot of companies that couldn't survive it. So I think this top kind of brought us just a bit of joy that some people got new roles and some companies decided to invest in social media teams. So there were some parts of our world that were fine, I guess.
Yeah, no, that I agree. I think that's great to be able to hear some good news out of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And and it's also a good wake up call for so many companies that have been told for years now, like, hey, you need to have a digital presence and not just a website. Like, you need to actually be actively on social media. And so I think it's great. I hate that it took something rather tragic to cause that, but we can view it as a positive for a lot of people that are discovering their voice and realizing that, like, a social media manager is a valuable asset on a team.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be a cousin, or, it can be, but
yeah.
Especially when you have someone that's really like
They're
working.
good.
That's right.
But someone who's like a prominent voice for your company should have some equal investment into your company as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Miruna, thank you so much for joining us today. So what is next for Planable? What's next for you? Where can people get contacted contact you if they want to see the report, but also, maybe try out the software?
So with me personally, they can reach out on LinkedIn. I am very, very responsive there. And on for Planable.io is the place to kind of find out everything that you want about us, about what we do. We have, the top is just the latest resource, but we do a lot of cool stuff on content marketing. We usually give out books. We have a pretty cool blog, so you can count for some pretty informative content there. And I think what's next, we've always kind of doubled down on content marketing. We plan to continue doing the same. It's our way of finding new people to try out Planable, and it's how we kind of stay in touch with the community, and what we try to give. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, everything that we've talked about today will actually be in the show notes for at roguecreators.club.
There you go.
That's there, and that's our Clubhouse handle as well, so make sure you guys check that out. And Miruna, and she's on Clubhouse, so make sure if you guys are there, jump into a room.
Oh, yeah.
As well, yeah. So, thank you so much again, and obviously, everyone out here, I hope that you found some value out of this. Make sure you guys go check out Planable.io, and until next week, we'll see you then. Thanks.